Australia is home to some of the most jaw-dropping landscapes on the entire planet, and I guarantee that by the end of this video, you're going to be adding at least 3 new destinations to your bucket list. We are talking about places so stunning, so otherworldly, that they genuinely look like they belong on another planet. Places where the ocean glows electric blue at night, where ancient rock formations tell stories that stretch back billions of years, and where forests so old they predate the dinosaurs still stand today. This is not your typical travel video. We are going deep into the heart of Australia to uncover wonders that most people never even hear about, alongside the iconic landmarks that continue to leave millions of visitors completely speechless year after year. Now, before we dive in, I want you to picture something. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, looking out over a landscape that stretches so far into the distance that the curvature of the earth starts to become visible. The air is warm. The sky is painted in shades of orange and deep purple as the sun dips below the horizon. And in front of you, ancient red rock formations glow as if they are lit from within. That is not a fantasy. That is a Tuesday evening in certain parts of Australia. This country is absolutely massive. We are talking about a landmass nearly as large as the continental United States, but with a population of only around 26 million people. That means vast stretches of this country remain wild, untouched, and breathtakingly beautiful. Let us start our journey in a place that needs no introduction but deserves one anyway. The Great Barrier Reef, stretching over 2,300 kilometers along the northeast coast of Queensland, this is the largest living structure on Earth. And yes, you heard that correctly, it is alive. The Great Barrier Reef is made up of nearly 3,000 individual reef systems and hundreds of islands. It is so enormous that it can be seen from outer space. When you dive beneath the surface of these waters, you enter a world that feels completely separate from everything above. The colors are extraordinary. Corals in every shade imaginable create an underwater cityscape that is home to over 1,500 species of fish, 4,000 types of mollusk, and around 200 species of birds on the islands above. Swimming through the Great Barrier Reef is like floating through a living painting. Schools of fish move in synchronized patterns that seem choreographed. Sea turtles glide past with an elegance that makes you forget how ancient these creatures truly are. And if you are lucky, you might spot a reef shark patrolling the edges of the coral formations. The sheer scale of life here is humbling. Every square meter of reef is teeming with activity, with creatures big and small going about their daily routines in ways that remind you just how incredible the natural world really is. But the reef also tells a more complex story. Rising ocean temperatures have led to coral bleaching events that have affected significant portions of this ecosystem. Conservation efforts are ongoing, and visiting the reef responsibly is more important now than ever before. When you go, choose operators who prioritize sustainability. Your visit can actually contribute to the preservation of this wonder rather than its decline. Now let us travel inland, deep into the red center of Australia, to encounter one of the most sacred and visually striking natural monuments on Earth. Uluru. Rising 348 meters above the surrounding flat desert landscape, this massive sandstone monolith is truly a sight that stops you in your tracks. What makes Uluru particularly magical is how it transforms throughout the day. In the early morning light, it appears as a deep shade of purple. As the sun climbs higher, it shifts to burnt orange. And at sunset, it blazes with a fiery red intensity that photographs simply cannot capture. You have to be there. You have to feel the heat radiating off the rock and watch the colors shift in real time to truly understand why this place has been sacred to the Anangu people for tens of thousands of years. The cultural significance of Uluru cannot be overstated. This is not just a rock formation, it is a living cultural landscape with deep spiritual meaning. The Anangu people have been the traditional custodians of this land for over 30,000 years, and their connection to Uluru is woven into creation stories and cultural practices that continue to this day. Since October 2019, climbing Uluru has been permanently closed out of respect for its cultural significance, and honestly, experiencing it from the ground is more than enough to leave you completely awestruck. Surrounding Uluru, the landscape of the Red Center offers its own wonders. Kata Tjuta, also known as the Olgas, is a formation of 36 domed rock structures that rise up from the desert floor just 25 kilometers from Uluru. In many ways, Kata Tjuta is even more impressive up close. Walking through the Valley of the Winds trail takes you between towering rock domes that create natural amphitheaters and wind tunnels. The silence between these formations is profound. It is the kind of quiet that makes you aware of your own heartbeat. Let us shift gears dramatically now and head to the coast. Specifically, the Great Ocean Road in Victoria. This 243-kilometer stretch of road along Australia's southeastern coast is regularly listed among the most scenic drives in the world, and for very good reason. The star attraction here is the collection of limestone stacks known as the 12 Apostles, though only 8 remain standing today. These towering pillars of rock rise up to 45 meters from the Southern Ocean, carved over millions of years by the relentless power of wind and waves. Standing at the viewing platform and watching the ocean crash against these formations is a reminder of just how powerful and patient nature truly is. But the Great Ocean Road offers so much more than just the 12 Apostles. There is Loch Ard Gorge, named after a ship that tragically wrecked here in 1878. The gorge itself is stunning, with towering cliffs framing a narrow inlet of turquoise water. There is London Arch, which was originally a double-arched formation connected to the mainland until one of the arches collapsed in 1990, dramatically transforming the structure while 2 tourists were standing on it. They had to be rescued by helicopter. The entire coastline tells stories of shipwrecks and geological drama that span millions of years. Now I want to take you somewhere that most international visitors overlook entirely, and that is Tasmania. This island state off the southern coast of mainland Australia is genuinely one of the most beautiful places I have ever encountered. Nearly 40% of Tasmania is protected in national parks and reserves, and the wilderness here is ancient, pristine, and utterly captivating. Cradle Mountain in the island's northwest is perhaps the most photographed location in Tasmania, and one look at it tells you why. The jagged peak of the mountain reflects perfectly in the still waters of Dove Lake below, creating a mirror image that looks almost too perfect to be real. But Tasmania's wonders extend far beyond Cradle Mountain. The Tarkine rainforest in the northwest is one of the largest tracts of temperate rainforest remaining in the world. Walking through it feels like stepping back in time. The trees here are hundreds, and in some cases thousands of years old. Moss covers every surface. The air is thick with moisture and the scent of eucalyptus and huon pine. Freycinet National Park on the east coast is home to Wineglass Bay, consistently ranked among the top 10 beaches in the world. The hike to the lookout point reveals a perfectly curved bay of white sand backed by pink granite mountains, with water so clear and blue it looks tropical despite being anything but. Let us head north now, way up to the tropical top of Australia, to a place called the Daintree Rainforest. This is the oldest continually surviving tropical rainforest on Earth. We are talking about a forest that has existed for over 135 million years. That means this forest was already ancient when dinosaurs still roamed the planet. The biodiversity here is staggering. Within the Daintree, you will find more species of plants and animals per square kilometer than almost anywhere else on the globe. Rare and unusual creatures like the southern cassowary, a large flightless bird that looks like something straight out of the prehistoric era, still roam these forests. What makes the Daintree even more remarkable is where it meets the sea. This is one of the only places on Earth where 2 World Heritage Sites meet, as the Daintree Rainforest stretches right down to the edge of the Great Barrier Reef. The collision of dense tropical jungle and coral reef coastline creates a landscape unlike anything else. You can literally go from exploring ancient rainforests to snorkeling over coral reefs within the same morning. Speaking of unique natural phenomena, let me tell you about something that sounds almost impossible. The bioluminescent waters of Jervis Bay in New South Wales. On certain nights, when conditions are right, the water here glows an electric blue. This ethereal light is produced by tiny organisms called dinoflagellates that emit light when disturbed. Walking along the shore and watching your footprints glow blue in the sand, or watching waves crash and illuminate the entire waterline with an otherworldly blue light, is genuinely one of the most magical experiences the natural world can offer. It feels like something out of a science fiction film, but it is completely real and it happens regularly along parts of the Australian coast. Now let us talk about a place that redefines what you think a lake can look like. Lake Hillier in Western Australia is a lake that is bright pink, not a subtle pink, not a pinkish hue depending on the light. This lake is bubblegum pink all day, every day, regardless of the weather or time of year. It sits on Middle Island, the largest of the islands in the Recherche archipelago, and it is surrounded by a rim of sand and dense eucalyptus forest that contrasts dramatically with the vivid pink water. From above, the sight of this hot pink lake sitting next to the deep blue of the Southern Ocean is absolutely surreal. Scientists believe the pink color comes from a combination of algae and bacteria, but the exact mechanism is still not fully understood. The water retains its pink color even when you scoop it up in a container, which makes it unlike many other pink lakes around the world where the color is only visible from a distance. We have covered reefs and deserts and rainforests and coastlines, but Australia's wonders include some extraordinary geological formations that deserve attention too. The Pinnacles Desert in Nambung National Park, Western Australia, is a landscape that looks like it belongs on Mars. Thousands of limestone pillars rise from yellow sand dunes, some reaching up to 5 meters tall. These formations were created over millions of years as limestone deposits formed around plant roots, which eventually decayed and left behind these haunting spires. Walking through the pinnacles at sunset, when the golden light casts long shadows between the formations and the sky turns deep orange behind them, is an experience that makes you question whether you have somehow left Earth entirely. And then there is the Blue Mountains, just 90 kilometers west of Sydney. Despite their proximity to Australia's largest city, the Blue Mountains feel like a completely different world. The characteristic blue haze that gives the mountains their name comes from the fine mist of oil released by the vast eucalyptus forests that cover the landscape. This creates a dreamy, almost mystical atmosphere that blankets the deep valleys and towering sandstone cliffs. The Three Sisters Rock Formation is the most famous viewpoint, and standing at Echo Point looking out over the Jameson Valley is genuinely one of those moments where you understand why human beings have always been drawn to high places. The sense of scale is incredible. Waterfalls cascade down cliff faces hundreds of meters high. Dense forest fills the valley floor so completely that it looks like a green ocean stretching to the horizon. Let me take you now to a place that surprises even many Australians. The Bungle Bungle Range in Purnululu National Park, Western Australia. These beehive-shaped sandstone domes, striped with alternating bands of orange and dark gray, look like something designed by an artist rather than formed by nature. The orange bands are created by iron and manganese deposits, while the darker bands contain cyanobacteria. The formations are over 350 million years old, yet they were not widely known to the outside world until the 1980s. The traditional custodians, the Kija and Jaru people, have known about and cared for this landscape for over 20,000 years. Walking through Cathedral Gorge within the range, a natural amphitheater formed by erosion, the acoustics are extraordinary. Even a whisper carries and echoes in ways that feel almost supernatural. Australia's coastline stretches for over 34,000 kilometers, and scattered along it are beaches that consistently rank among the most beautiful in the world. Whitehaven Beach in the Whitsunday Islands is perhaps the most famous. The sand here is 98% pure silica, giving it a brilliant white appearance and a texture so fine it feels like powder between your fingers. The swirling patterns of white sand and turquoise water at Hill Inlet, visible from an elevated lookout point, create abstract patterns that shift with every tide. These natural designs are so visually striking that they look digitally enhanced in photographs, but in person they are even more impressive. Cable Beach in Broome, Western Australia stretches for 22 kilometers and is famous for its spectacular sunsets over the Indian Ocean. Watching the sun sink below the horizon while riding a camel along the flat, wet sand is one of those quintessentially Australian experiences that combines natural beauty with a touch of the surreal. Now here is something that might surprise you. Australia is home to some genuinely remarkable cave systems. The Jenolan Caves in New South Wales are estimated to be around 340 million years old, making them among the oldest discovered open caves in the world. Inside, you will find extraordinary limestone formations including stalactites, stalagmites, columns, and crystal-clear underground rivers. The caves are illuminated to showcase these formations, and the effect is otherworldly. Each chamber reveals new shapes and textures that have been slowly built by dripping water over incomprehensible timescales. Let us not forget the wildlife that makes Australia so unique. This country's geographic isolation has produced an incredible array of animals found nowhere else on Earth. Kangaroos bounding across open grasslands at dawn, koalas sleeping peacefully in eucalyptus trees, platypuses swimming in freshwater streams still baffling scientists with their bizarre combination of features, wombats waddling through forests at dusk. And in the waters surrounding Australia, humpback whales migrate along the coast each year, providing spectacular displays of breaching and tail slapping that draw crowds to vantage points up and down the coastline. Kangaroo Island, off the coast of South Australia, is one of the best places to experience Australian wildlife in its natural habitat. Sea lions laze on pristine beaches. Koalas populate almost every eucalyptus tree you pass. Echidnas waddle along forest paths. And the remarkable rocks, a collection of naturally sculpted granite boulders perched on a smooth granite dome overlooking the Southern Ocean, provide one of the most photogenic natural landmarks in the entire country. These rocks have been shaped by wind, rain, and sea spray over 500 million years into abstract forms that look like they were carved by a giant sculptor. The Kimberley region in Western Australia is one of the last true wilderness frontiers on Earth. Covering an area of over 400,000 square kilometers, it is roughly 3 times the size of England, but home to fewer than 40,000 people. The landscape here is ancient and dramatic. Horizontal falls, where massive tidal movements force water through narrow gorges, creating a waterfall that flows sideways, is a phenomenon unique to this region. The Mitchell Falls cascade over several tiers surrounded by lush monsoon vine forest and ancient Aboriginal rock art. King George Falls, the highest twin falls in Western Australia, plunge over 80 meters directly into the ocean. The entire Kimberley coast is studded with thousands of islands, hidden bays, and dramatic cliff faces that most of the world has never seen, and we cannot talk about the wonders of Australia without mentioning the night sky. Due to the vast uninhabited areas with virtually zero light pollution, Australia offers some of the best stargazing opportunities on the planet. In the outback, far from any town or city, the Milky Way stretches across the sky with such clarity and brilliance that it casts visible shadows on the ground below. The Southern Cross constellation featured on the Australian flag is visible year-round from most parts of the country. And during certain times of the year, the Southern Lights Aurora Australis can be seen from Tasmania, painting the southern sky with ethereal curtains of green, purple, and red light. What strikes me most about Australia is the sheer diversity of landscapes contained within a single country. You can go from snorkeling on tropical reefs to hiking through ancient rainforests to standing in vast red deserts to exploring pristine white sand beaches to walking through cool temperate forests all within days. The distances are enormous, yes, but that is part of the adventure. The driving between destinations takes you through landscapes that gradually transform, telling geological stories that span billions of years. The indigenous Australian people, the oldest continuous culture on Earth with a history stretching back at least 65,000 years, have shaped and cared for these landscapes in ways that are only now beginning to be understood and appreciated by the wider world. Their knowledge of the land, encoded in stories, songs, and art, represents an unbroken connection to these places that predates every other human civilization. Experiencing Australia's wonders with an understanding of this cultural depth adds layers of meaning to every landscape you encounter.